Nikki, I really appreciate it. And thank you again to everyone who's joined us tonight. As Nikki mentioned, I'm a college counselor here in the area, in the local area, also the parent of teens. And I have one on both ends of the college process. I have a high school freshman just beginning to look toward her college options and a senior who's currently making that final college choice. I understand the stress and anxiety that families may experience during this time. And as a community sponsor, I don't know if Nikki mentioned it, but I'm the community sponsor for Eastlake. And so one of the goals I've made over the last year is to share information and resources that I hope will lessen the stress in college admissions through the PTSA newsletter and the articles I post. I'm so very happy to be able to collaborate tonight with Angie because she is going to share with you one of my favorite resources to help students and their families begin the college search conversation and experience. Okay, Angie, over to you.
Over to me. Thank you, Michelle. I'd like to add my thanks to Nikki for inviting us and for Michelle for including me this evening and for all of you for taking time out of your busy lives to join us at 7 o'clock on a beautiful St. Patrick's Day. We hope you find the information we share to be valuable as you and your teens contemplate the college journey. Just a little bit about my background. Prior to Corsava, I was a high school math teacher in the area. I taught at both the Renton School District and Snoqualmie Valley, but I also lived in Sammamish, so I'm very familiar with Eastlake. And I spent a few years teaching ballroom dancing as well, and had the honor of mentoring 2 Eastlake High School students through their ballroom dancing senior project. So excited to be reconnecting with the Eastlake PCSA. Here is what Michelle and I hope you will take away from tonight's webinar. We really want you to know that this is for anyone, maybe not 12th graders, but maybe a little bit if they were here. But really for parents of any student, we're gonna present information that you can really engage in at any time. We want you to learn how the why of college leads to the what and the where. We want you to learn when to use the tools and activities that we share, where to help your student create a list of great colleges so that they have college choices they love and where they will succeed and thrive. We will be using the Q&A feature to track your questions this evening, so you can pop open that window and type in a question if you have anything along the way. We're going to hold questions until the end so that we can get through the material. That way, if we're going to answer it later, we're not jumping around too much. But any questions not addressed during the presentation will be handled at the very end.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to launch our final poll just to get a sense of where people are in the college planning process. So if you wouldn't mind really quickly answering those questions, and then we'll end that polling so you guys can see where everyone else in the room is. It looks like most people are just beginning or haven't started.
Perfect.
I will, and oh, almost, we're almost there. Looks like we're about there. So this is what the results are. I think you can all see that. Most people are just beginning, so that's great. I'm going to stop sharing the poll, and I will start off this discussion tonight. Probably you've heard the advice, find your fit or identify your priorities, which means your must-haves when it comes to creating the college list. This is a foundational part of building a college list. And as we said tonight, we're going to show you a great resource for this very purpose. But even before students and families start to identify what characteristics they want their college to have, I suggest they first take a step back and ask themselves, why? Why college? College is a huge investment of effort, time, and money. For parents, the cost is monumental, and I think it's worth the time to think about the why behind your investment. And for students too, they are investing years of their lives. College is fun, yes, but it is also hard and challenging. So I really encourage students to take a moment and think about why are they willing to move 300 miles away from their family to maybe sleep in a single bed and share a small 300 square foot room, or stay up until 3 a.m. in the middle of the night pounding coffee as they prep for a test? There might come a cold November night where they are studying and feeling like they don't know the material and wondering why are they doing this. But if you have the conversations that I'm going to suggest right now with your family, you'll be able to reassure yourself that you have a good why and that you are in the right place. The answer to why will guide the discovery of what. So the next slide. Angie.
Slow. Yeah.
It's slow. It's coming. Okay. Well, on the next slide, you will see a number of different reasons that students often list for why they want to go to college. And most students have more than one reason, several of these reasons. Identifying these reasons will lead to a greater understanding of why students want their college, or what students want their college experience to provide them. So some of these whys might seem pretty straightforward, like I want to make new friends, I want to be independent, I'm not sure what I want to study, and I want to explore options. But once you've kind of identified one of these whys, you have your list, think about what that why looks like. What does independence at college look like for you? What does it mean to you? So perhaps being independent means being on a residential campus in a college town, and you get to go to football games and you stay on your campus on the weekends because it's so fun and there's so many activities right there in that very location. Or independence might mean being in a busy metropolitan urban type of campus where perhaps you have a job off campus or take a bus downtown into the city. Students only spend about 15% of their time in class. What do you want the rest of that experience to look like? So maybe your college experience is about making new friends. Do you want to be around people like you who are like your current friend group, or are you looking for a totally diverse experience, new people, new opinions, new perspectives? Or maybe your main focus is to explore your possible majors and your career options. What does that look like for you in terms of your curriculum? Is that a broad-based liberal arts and sciences curriculum where you explore many options for your first 2 years before declaring a major? Or do you know exactly what you want to study and you want to dig in and learn by doing in that sort of learn by doing curriculum? Really knowing your why will lead to a deeper examination of what you want out of your college experience so that you can define more clearly what those characteristics are. So we have a why college activity, and I really encourage families and students to do this activity, to actually take the time to sit down together and to write out the answers to these why questions, not just listen in a webinar and think, oh yeah, that's a really good point, I should think about that. Actually do this. And it's important because students and parents might actually have different whys, and it leads to a great discussion. You can talk about the similarities and the differences. You can open yourselves up to the exciting opportunities and experiences that are available at the college experience that you may not be thinking about when you are focusing solely on the colleges themselves, on the admissibility, on the selectivity, on will I get in, on the stress. This is an exciting time. Be excited, be expansive, open up the opportunities. Again, I want to encourage parents to remember, though, that it's your child's process. Let them drive the conversation, try and listen, but then discuss about what you learned. Discuss what you learned. Where were you aligned? Where were you surprised? Are there compromises that might need to be made? So one of the tips that I have when you start these conversations and throughout the next several years as you go through the college journey is I like to create a bucket. So you might start to get a lot of college mail. Maybe you should put out a bucket or a basket and you can collect all that mail. And just as you have a bucket and basket for that mail, create a bucket of time for when you have the college discussion. So try and avoid what we call college creep. At my house, this was a real issue, being the parent of a senior as well as a college advisor. And I would talk about college all the time because I love this stuff. But my daughter needed a break. And so we developed a time of the week. It was Sundays afternoon at 2, and that was our college discussion time. And all it took was a look from her if I started to bring something up, and we would just table that discussion for that time. Depending when you are and where you are in the process, it may not be weekly, maybe it's just twice a month for a while. But have a bucket of time just for college, whether it be for brochures or for discussions. Okay, so these are just some of the resources and suggestions on how to approach the questions of why college. And these 2 resources up here on this slide right here are really kind of foundational in many of the suggestions I discussed. The book on the right is one that I really recommend, The Truth About College Admission. And there's a really great dialogue framework in there for the discussion that I went over tonight. The other book on the left, College Match by Stephen Antonoff, has a really great online survey. The book itself has a printout of the survey, but you can access it online, and the resources that we will provide after this webinar will link to that. So you can, if you're interested, you and your student can link to this online survey and take it right online without actually having to purchase the book. So here we go. I'm going to turn it over to Angie, and she is going to take it from here to explain to you how, once you've identified your why, you can more fully understand what your what is.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. I am going to start by sharing a short video with you guys, and it didn't play very well in PowerPoint. So you're going to have to hang in with me for a second while I switch screens. But I wanted to introduce you to what is Corsava, which is now not doing what it's supposed to at all. There we go.
Overwhelming.
Stressful.
Exhausting. High pressure.
I had a lot of anxiety.
Come on, YouTube.
Excited.
I don't have to be overwhelmed. I feel heard.
I felt hopeful.
I feel ready to go to college.
All right. When I tell you that that played better than it did in PowerPoint, you can just feel bad for me. So I'm going to be talking more about what Corsava is as we continue. But before we dig into those details, I do want to share what Corsava is not. So we talked about expectations a little bit earlier, and I want to be sure I'm framing them really well. Corsava is not a list generating tool. We do offer college recommendations based on card sort results, but these recommendations are still a beta feature. So they're only available to our counselor users as we work on refining our recommender algorithm. Corsava is also not a college search engine. It's a great tool for organizing and storing research results, and we'll touch on that a little bit later, but really the value of Corsava is in the conversations that it jumpstarts, the reflections it instigates, and the focus that it provides when you're thinking about, I have my why, what is my what? So the Corsava card sort is designed to introduce students and their families to a broad scope of college characteristics, allowing students and families to fully understand their preferences and encouraging them to think beyond name recognition, size, and location to find a college that will truly resonate with their wants and needs. For each characteristic, students indicate a preference of must-have, would be nice, do not care, or no way. And taken together, the group of must-haves in particular become the what. Come on. Oops, we skipped a slide there. The cards are divided into the following color-coded categories. So green are academics, orange are campus culture, light blue is educational culture, dark blue is extracurricular activities, this red is residential life, and purple is student resources. When a student starts a card sort, they'll be presented with a digital image representing the card, the 4 preference emojis, and a definition of the card. The cards appear in random order, so no 2 card sort experiences are the same. So we do have both student and parent accounts. I'll talk a little bit more about the parent accounts next, but the student owns that process. So the student will need to sign up for their account and then invite you to set up your own Corsava account. If your student has any trouble getting their account set up at all, please encourage them to reach out to us directly at hello@corsava.com. We're here to help. We will definitely be helping, but that saves you having to go back and forth with your student and be the mediator. So this is a little bit about the parent account. So a student can invite their parents, their guardians, or other adult mentors to create their own Corsava account. And in that account, you see this playing. There you go. You see any students that you're connected with, and you're able to view their reports, their colleges, their impressions. But you're also able to do your own card sort. So you can do your own card sort, you can make your own college list, you can track your own impressions right alongside your student in a way that parallels and allows you both to keep your own thoughts and then compare notes at the end. I want to talk about a couple of different ways to approach the card sort activity. So on the left, you have a family working on it together, sitting together, viewing the same screen, or if you're not able to be in the same location, using an online meeting platform, which we all have grown to both love and hate, that allows for screen sharing and have your students share their screen. Really want to encourage you to discuss the definitions, discuss the preferences as they're making their choices. I have a high school friend who recently did this with her daughter, and she said they had some really interesting conversations about certain cards as they came up. So it ends up being a launching point for some great college stories from parents, but also just, clarifications, etc. On the right-hand side, you have kind of the dueling monitors, right? Like two people in their own little world. Choose whatever works best for your family and your dynamic. The idea here on the right is that a student completes their online card sort, you complete your own card sort separately with no, don't view theirs, don't pay attention, and then you swap reports. And by swapping, you're able to review them and see where you have similarities and differences. And we'll talk a little bit more about the conversations that can bounce off of that. So before we talk about questions with regard to comparing those sorts, just a few tips. We really see that the most successful transitions to college are when a student takes ownership of the process and the parents walk alongside offering support and guidance without just driving the whole train. So whenever possible, let your student lead that conversation. Be sure to celebrate your common ground. I know my adolescence was full of conflict, at least with my mom, because we were really similar. And my dad played mediator a lot. But take the time to celebrate the things that everybody agrees on. She looked at me halfway through our in-person tour of the campus I ended up attending and said, all right, so the next task is how do we convince your father to let you go here? And that was a really great moment for us to celebrate, like, oh, we know we both want me to be here. How do we make it happen? Keep it curious. Be really, if you were surprised by any of your students' must-have preferences or surprised by a no way, really aim to ask neutral questions to better understand that choice versus, asking it in a way that might put them on the defensive, especially if they differ from what you expect. And don't worry about reaching consensus or closure. This is a dialogue. It's going to be ongoing. Priorities are going to shift as the conversation continues. So enjoy learning about each other with each other as you go through this. I know Michelle mentioned it earlier, but this is your students' experience, not yours. So please be open to hearing what they have to say and be honest with your feedback back to them. There may be things that you guys have to hash out, but try to absorb that it's their experience that they want to shape. And as you're comparing card sorts, look for patterns on both of your reports. Is there a color that has more must-have cards than others? Which color has the fewest? How do your colors differ from your students? Were many of theirs on campus culture and yours were on academics or student resources? Really look at those things and have dialogue around why each of you thought they were important. This is an example of a student whose must-haves are really dominated by educational culture. They don't have any representation of a residential or extracurricular activities. It's all about that education. So this is just an example of how a report might look. Your students will look different and will include more than just must-haves. Just only so much fits on the screen. These are just some question stems, ways to get you started thinking about the conversation. So, you can center a conversation around must-haves. Tell me why you chose this, or talk about cards that might not actually play well together. We definitely see students, as they're going through, especially because the cards are currently offered up in random order. They say they must have a rural college, and then later they say they must have an urban college, and it can't be both. And so have those conversations about why they picked each card, and help them understand why they might be mutually exclusive or may just really limit the pool of options. Same thing with no ways. Think about you know, asking, why does this not appeal to you? What is it about that that's a no way? And I would note that when you're thinking about no ways, it's also good to think about, is this a no way for me, or is this like, I can't even be around this, but it's okay if my roommate, you know? So that's another space to think about those priorities. And then cards that are hard to place, where did you decide to put them? That's a really great conversation to prompt some reflection about those hard to nudge barriers. This is a great activity to do. What are the benefits of a no way card? So a student says, you know, no way, I can't go to a rural campus. Benefits of a rural campus might include access to outdoors, sports like hiking and skiing, a sense of getting away from it all, increased ability to focus, small town charm, tight-knit community, so all kinds of things that might be benefits. Is it still a no way? And if the card remains in the no way pile, that's great. This activity just ensures that both you and your student have considered all the options and all the angles as you're thinking about priorities. I also really want to encourage you to share your own reflections on your post-secondary experience. Thinking back to when you were in high school and making these decisions, whether they're very similar decisions or very different. Share with your student your memories of this time. Was it exciting? Was it disappointing? How did your decisions lead you to where you are now? And look back on your own experiences and finish the sentence, I wish I had, right? We all want to pass on that wisdom to the next generation. What are the things you wish you had done? Is it, I wish I'd looked into student resources more when I was visiting campuses. I didn't realize I would need, you know, career advising. Or maybe it's something else. Encourage your students to talk to other trusted adults, extended family, friends, coaches, teachers, mentors, neighbors. Who do they know who maybe had a different experience than you did, and therefore, you know, can provide a different perspective. And then Michelle really talked eloquently about the why, having those priorities around why am I going to college. It's important to reflect on whether or not the must-haves, as well as the would be nice characteristics that have been chosen, align with those. So, you know, if a goal is to get a good job, where did career advising and internships end up in the priorities? So really reflecting and using that lens to help focus on the priorities for you and your family, as opposed to, and your teen, as opposed to what is glossy about the brochures that arrive in the mail. At the top of every profile is a progress bar. The card sort is first, then locations, colleges, and impressions. If the card sort helps you define your what and align it with your why, then locations, colleges, and impressions take you from your what to your where. If your student has a strong preference for or against a particular state or region, they can record their preference on our interactive map. And just a note that all states are automatically set to do not care. And so I highly recommend only going through and adding strong preferences like a must-have or a no way. No need to rank every state. It's my dog trying to come in and join us. Apologies for the scratching at the door. Oh, good, we're playing it again. How nice of them. Right. There are a lot of resources out there to help students and their families build college lists. You can find more guidance for list building on Corsava's resources page, which we'll share later, as well as some of the resources that Michelle has put together for you. But once an initial list is built, it will need refinement before students start working on their applications. So researching their must-haves and would-be-nice cards at each of the colleges on their list can help students prioritize and eliminate schools. This process gives students more insight into what they really like, what they don't like, and what they need. It's expected that their preferences will change, resulting in both an updated card sort and an updated list. They can add new colleges, they can drop colleges off. My apologies, I don't think this is coming through very well. Recording their impressions in Corsava will result in a personalized ranking of their list. That's going lovely. Come on. So recording impressions, and that personalized ranking is an invaluable tool both for applications and for making final decisions. Comes in really handy when they have to write the personal statement about why this college, to be able to see what are the things that were really impressive to them at that college. And also in that personalized ranking can really help a student decide between two schools if they're accepted to both, and the financial aid packages, et cetera, are pretty similar. All right, you have one more video to struggle through with me. I'm sorry. We will be sharing this slide deck, and I'll have links to YouTube versions that will hopefully play a little bit better for you if you want to go back and review them. I did want to share a pro tip about recording impressions. As campuses are starting to reopen and in-person visits are starting to resume, and are highly recommended whenever and wherever possible. But also taking advantage of the virtual tour information is fantastic too. A lot of colleges have really stepped up in the last year and provided a lot more in-depth ways to engage from afar. My impressions for both students and parents is a great place to organize your thoughts as you do research into your options, especially following a tour or an info session or some other interaction with an alum or a current student, et cetera. So my pro tip for using impressions is going to seem a little bit counterintuitive. The must-have and would-be-nice cards will initially be presented in random order, similar to the card sort. So rather than rate each card as it appears, I recommend clicking straight through without recording any impressions. It should only take a few seconds, even when there are 57 cards, although we're stuck. At the end, you click yes, and then there'll be, your impressions will be organized. Oh, come on. Here we go. Oh, goodness. Maybe it's behaving better on your end. Your impressions will be organized into the must-haves in alphabetical order and the would-be-nice in alphabetical order. And that makes it so much easier to find and rate a specific card or add a note or adjust ratings. If you started out saying, I don't know if this school has it, and you then do some research and you come back and say, oh, it was really good. You can make those adjustments very easily on this report page rather than having to go through that random order. Another tip is that you may not end up wanting to research and rate every must-have and would-be-nice card. I've seen students have, like 70 would-be-nices at the start of their research process. And it certainly drops down as they start really prioritizing. But that initial like, oh my gosh, I have to go through 85 different characteristics for 10 colleges. How am I going to do that? We know that Zoom and Teams and Google Hangout fatigue is real. Card fatigue can be real too. Some counselors have students focus solely on their must-have category and stick just with that. Others may do the must-have category, and the top 5 would be nice cards, because really when you think about it, they're not all going to be equal. There's still going to be some prioritization even within those buckets. Whatever works best for you and your team is great. This is meant to be a tool to help you, not to, fuel us. We encourage you to be consistent between schools, and that ensures that your personalized ranking is really comparing schools on the same things versus, oh, I ranked these 5 cards here and I ranked a different 5 cards over there. I do also want to note that every must-have and would be nice card that a student has chosen is considered in our back-end equation as we provide an actual numerical rating. So if you just are rating must-haves, that number may look really low because the empty would be nices are pulling that average down. But as long as you do must-haves for all the schools, it's their relative order as opposed to, oh, it only got a 0.54. That can't be a very good school. It's not a good fit for me. Nope, if it's the highest one you've rated, then it's still the best fit based on what you've rated. All right, so that's a little bit about getting started on your quest. We just wanted to kind of summarize the, what's next. Michelle, did you want to talk a little bit more about the why?
Sure. So the questions that I went over earlier in the presentation, the why questions, as well as some next steps in terms of what to do once you've done your Corsava sort, how to start building that list, what colleges to research. Those all be found. This is a clickable link, and we will share this resource. This will take you to a page that will list the resources that I've talked about, as well as some various great college list series articles that will get you started on this process. And I'm always just an email away as well.
Yeah, and as you've defined your why, we hope that you'll have your student set up their Corsava account and invite you. We hope that you'll do one of the card sort activities, whether it's together or apart. Take a look at our resources for families as well, and then really use it as a discussion point, so that as you move into the part where you're building that list, you're reminding yourself why are colleges on the list and what are we looking for at those colleges. These are some great tools for building and researching colleges as you get going, and we wish everybody a lot of luck in this process. It's an exciting time. So we wanted to share our contact info. Again, this is, we know this was a lot of information all at once.